Was Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 bad? In short answer, no. Of course not. It sold over 100,000 copies within the first hour, and it's mostly positive on Steam. So obviously, it's a great game. If you couldn't already tell by my passion, I am a gamer. I'm not someone who just plays games, okay? I am a gamer. I play at least 2 to 3 games a week on my main channel, God Made Dan, and recently I played Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 before I got to see any criticisms, before I got to see any spoilers or anything on YouTube. Within the first 2 hours of the game dropping, I was already playing it, and by the next 4 hours, the game was already done. Yes, it took me around 6.5 hours to finish the game, but that's neither here nor there. If you love Let's Plays and you want to see Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, unbiased, raw reaction, you can check out the channel and see the entire video. It's around 5 hours. Now, if you notice something, I said that the Steam charts say that they're mostly positive, and there's a big reason why that's happening. There's a lot of controversy going on online about how certain YouTubers and certain streamers, which won't be named, have came out and said that Chapter 5 was either one of the worst chapters they've ever played, or 2, it was just random, confusing, it was boring. And a lot of people had the same type of consensus. Someone even went as far as to say that the game was a 1 out of 10. Are you fucking retarded? Now let's get into the topic of today's video, which is, was Chapter 5 bad? We've already answered that question, so we know the answer to it. But let's look at the criticism of Chapter 5. I took some notes down here. First, it was confusing. Second, it was random. 3, the series is drawn out too far. We're gonna definitely hit on that one. And then lastly, it was too many puzzles. I put the last one in there. Look, my brain was turned to mush. I went from puzzle to puzzle to puzzle to puzzle. My only criticism as a gamer is that maybe we could lean a little bit outside of the puzzles, like just not too puzzle heavy, and get back into the psychological horror of like the atmosphere, which they created a wonderful atmosphere in Chapter 5. I loved every bit of it. Like they leaned into the horror aspect of it being like children being experimented on and children having to go through these horrible atrocities that these scientists were doing to them. That's terrifying, okay? Especially for it to be a somewhat kids game where they sell merch to kids and it's a mascot horror. If I was a kid, I'd be shitting my pants. Well, I played Dead Space, so I'm in another league. But let's address each one of these claims and invalidate them one by one. First, we have confusing. I can't begin to understand because you're confused about what's happening because you've missed various lore dumps through either ARGs, the tapes that are provided within the game, or even the context within the storyline, that somehow is Poppy Playtime's fault. How is that Poppy Playtime's fault? Maybe you should pay attention a little bit more. If you're a gamer, you're gonna be immersed within the lore. I watch Terrified T, which is the Poppy Playtime YouTuber. I am by no means a Poppy Playtime lore YouTuber. I don't know how these guys do it, but I watched all of his videos and looked through all of the lore and everything that had to go with it. And I was up to speed. I was on game. You should be too, especially if it's your job. Come on, guys, we gotta do better. With that being said, Chapter 5 is being criticized on players' ignorance, inability to comprehend, or lack of exploration abilities. In other words, it's a skill issue, fuckboy. Get better. Now I want to disprove this claim because Mob Entertainment actually does a wonderful job at showcasing the storyline. They put everything right in front of you, whether it be through the tapes that they drop, the VHS recordings, or even the audio files or the notes that they leave. And even the ARG and the Discord and the way that they put the storyline together was a wonderful masterpiece, in my complete opinion. And I'm by no means just only Poppy Playtime fanboy. If you check out my channel, I play loads of different games. I play terrible indie games. I play wonderful AAA games. So I have a wide spectrum of games that I play, and I have a meter on whether or not the game is terrible or not, or if I'm confused. I have brain cells. Now, I can understand from a perspective of playing Poppy Playtime 100% through in one sitting. I couldn't do it. because of the puzzles, which is my only critique. Which is a valid criticism. The other criticism is not valid. It's not valid in any way, shape, or form because Mob Entertainment, they did a meticulous job on making sure everything made sense. From chapter 1, when you're introduced to the factory and you just think that you're running away from some big blue bastard with long ass arms built like the one dude from Foster Imaginary Home. You go from that being chased from him, and then you're being thrown into the factory in chapter 2, and you still don't even know what's going on yet. You're still assuming that these toys are just toys that were made and they're looking to just kill you just because. And then you go into chapter 3, which I understand chapter 3 is the pinnacle of Poppy Playtime. It's going to always be the pinnacle of Poppy Playtime because that's when they unveiled the true horrors of what was going down in Play Co. That was the horror aspect, and that's why they leaned so heavy into it. And, you know, it went from psychological horror to just the atmosphere and then how dark it was and everything just being thrown at you at once. Like, everything has followed a linear path. Even chapter 4, which chapter 4 wasn't the strongest chapter. I'm gonna be the first one to say it was not. That bit wasn't hitting from a gameplay perspective. Now, when you go through and you watch all the lore and you pick up all the tapes and everything like that, it was heavy, very heavy. So with them going to chapter 5, it continues to follow the linear progression. But I do understand if you're doing a bunch of puzzles, your brain is turned to mush. Okay. You forget everything that happened. And for me, I've played all these games within the past year. I was not a horror game YouTuber. I was not someone who even made videos. I just started making videos a year ago. And at first it was just me playing around or whatever. And then now I started to take it serious within the last couple of months. So it's fresh in my mind. And that's also another criticism that I can have, or a compassion, a sympathetic, empathetic type of approach towards other streamers, YouTubers, who had a negative approach towards Poppy Playtime Chapter 5. And I mean like overwhelmingly negative, like just egregious, saying it's a 1 out of 10. Now let's get into the second point, which is random gameplay. Now I can understand this criticism if I had my brain turned off while playing, or if I'm playing just because my audience likes the franchise and not being interested enough to dive into the lore, activities, or even paying attention to the storyline itself. One thing that I will note, once again, is that if you play the full game without knowledge of how to solve the puzzles, you'll fry your brain, and that's one way to miss out on what's being told to you. Because in Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, we go from puzzle to puzzle to puzzle to puzzle, then chase scene, then puzzle to chase scene, then puzzle to chase scene. So I understand. Your brain gets completely toasted and you just like, what the fuck is going on? Everything that happens in chapter 5 was explained. It was actually quite simple to understand. You ran from the prototype in the end of chapter 4 and ended up in that room. Huggy chases you and leads you down to a lower level that was hinted about many times before. From there, you meet characters that were rumored to be down there from previous chapters. There, you find a way to defeat the prototype using the documents, but to get to the only backup, you have to go through Sweet Street. In there, you meet Lily because she lives on Sweet Street. And if you notice, it was an unexpected encounter, totally reasonable and realistic. And then you flee and make your way to find the backup in IT after fighting the prototype. That was the whole chapter 5 in its entirety. Now, if you haven't watched chapter 5, I just spoiled the entire thing for you. So I probably should have threw a spoiler warning, but shoot, I would assume this whole video is a spoiler warning, okay? Now let's get into the last and most bullshit critique that I've been seeing going on online everywhere. The series is drawn out too far. Really? What about Five Nights at Freddy's? I'm upset that this is an actual critique. We met the prototype a total of 2 times, and within those 2 times, we got the first face reveal, and then after that, the boss battle. And you're telling me within those 2 times, within me meeting the prototype for the first time, and then me fighting the prototype for the first time, you want him to be done? Really? The main antagonist, you want him to be done just like that? Do we not remember how the whole community was bitching and moaning about how Huggy didn't get enough screen time? Huggy was seen for a chase scene in chapter 1, and that was it. And now we're complaining that it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's where we are right now. There was so many things to unpack, and there's still so much left from the notes, tapes, VHS recordings, and the ARG hints we got from the Poppy Playtime Discord. I was actually relieved that chapter 5 was not the last episode or the last chapter of Poppy Playtime, because there's just so much that goes into it. Like, when you're actually deep into the lore and you're a true gamer, you actually care about the franchise, yo, there's so much to unpack, and there's no way that they would have been able to do it in one chapter unless they want to make the chapter extremely long, like 10, 12 plus hours. I was actually relieved. Like, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I'll even throw up the clip. While I was playing the game, I was actually like, oh my gosh, thank you. It's not over. And it's not because I obsessed and I love the franchise so much to the point to where I wanted to go on to Poppy Playtime chapter 12. That's not why. It's just, it didn't make a storytelling perspective, from a storytelling perspective, it didn't make that much sense to just end it like that. It would have been lame, in my opinion. I hate to say it because I love Five Nights at Freddy's, but if Poppy Playtime is drawn out, then Five Nights at Freddy's drag them up even longer, okay? If we think about Poppy Playtime and its entire franchise, chapter 1 was an introduction to the franchise. Obviously, it's free, so it's clearly a sample. Five Nights at Freddy's was not free. There were demos, but it was not free the entire game. Chapter 2 was the first real chapter, and chapter 3 unveiled the true horror. 4, well, we already talked about that it needed a little bit of work, but chapter 5 was a major improvement and dived deeper into the lore. Now, when I say Five Nights at Freddy's completely dragged itself and went way further than it should have ever gone, that's not coming from just me, but that's also coming from Scott Cawthon. When he made the Five Nights at Freddy's series, he intended for Five Nights at Freddy's 3 to be the last rendition of Five Nights at Freddy's, because from a storytelling perspective, it makes the most sense. There's not too much that you can do about being a security guard with animatronics and kids. And yes, I'm oversimplifying it, and if you take offense to that, that's okay. I'm a Five Nights at Freddy's fan my damn self, okay? But if we're going to sit here and talk about Poppy Playtime and try to diminish it from what it is, which is, it is a franchise, and it is more expansive than Five Nights at Freddy's. Ooh, I just fucking hit a remix. It's more expansive than Five Nights at Freddy's could have ever been when it comes to everything that's going on. That's just in my opinion. I could be wrong. But from Scott Cawthon's perspective, chapter 3 or Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was the last game of Five Nights at Freddy's. But because of the audience, the fan base basically ragged the game. They said it wasn't scary enough. He made another one. That's something he actually said. That's something he's quoted saying. But I say that to say, let Poppy Playtime do what it's supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them keep cooking. Let them go as far as Five Nights at Freddy's. I want them to have a movie. I want them to have a horror house at Universal so I can go to a Halloween Horror Nights. I want it to go just that far because Poppy Playtime is well deserving of it. It fits the movie narrative more than Five Nights at Freddy's does. If you think about it from a gameplay perspective, how we went from a point and click to a full-blown movie. And then when we go even deeper into the series, we went from being a security guard to a technician named Arnie who is doing shit with a data driver. Come on now. At least with Poppy Playtime, everything is cohesive. It all makes sense. And yes, we can argue about the books being in play and all this. It was rumored from the start. Whatever. All right. Now I'm making this video because I'd hate to see another franchise be ruined by content creators. Give actual criticism as a gamer. Someone who enjoys games, not someone who plays games to appease their audience, incite rage bait engagement, or simply covering topics to stay relevant to pay rent. Chapter 5 wasn't the best, but it also wasn't a 1 out of 10. Chapter 3 will forever hold that special place of being the scariest and most enjoyable chapter due to its unveiling of the true horror. It was never about the toys being the monsters. It was about the people. The true monsters were the people, and that's what Poppy Playtime is portraying. So let them cook, gang. Let them continue drawing their masterpiece. And when it's over, When it's all said and done, then we can judge it. And this is coming from a perspective of someone who came from Call of Duty. I watched Call of Duty go from this.
You can't kill me! You shoot, GI, you shoot! Fuck! This time, do it! In line! Ready. Play. 打對兵
6 and 8 o'clock.
To this.
Take that thing down!
And I played Call of Duty for just around 12 or 13 years. I started with Black Ops Zombies, and from there, I made it all the way to Black Ops 6, and that's where I pulled the plug. I've watched a series, a franchise go down the toilet, and I'm not some gamer who is juiced up on the game and it's like the most addictive. I gotta be on it. I can't, even if it's bad, I gotta play it, I gotta buy it. No, I was that at one point. The only game that I played was Call of Duty for a long amount of time. But before then, I played games like GoldenEye. I've played Naruto, Ninja Storm, and I've played so many games. Dragon Ball Z, Dead Space. There's a plethora of games that I played growing up. On the Sega, not the Sega Genesis, but the Nintendo 64, to the Wii, to the PS2, PS1, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3. Like I've played on so many consoles, I've played so many games, but Call of Duty was my bread and butter for a long time. I loved it. And I watched the franchise go completely down the toilet due to content creators, streamers, and YouTubers alike. I don't want to see the same thing happen with Poppy Playtime or any franchise for that matter. So I'm hoping that Mob Entertainment does not take this criticism too harshly, that they don't lean very hard into what streamers and content creators are saying, because it's going to throw off the vision that they are making. We should let them paint. How are we going to commission a painter? And this is an analogy if you can get it. How are we going to commission a painter based off of their work that they put in the marketplace for free, might I add? They put it there for free. We ask them to make another one and we'll pay them. And while they're making these paintings, and you know, they made the second painting, it was nice. They made the third painting, it was my favorite. The fourth one could have needed some work. The fifth one was its own masterpiece. And then now we're critiquing them and just being angry at the fact that they're not giving us that third one again, when it's a complete rendition of a series. Let them cook, let them paint, let them continue to do what they're doing. I want to see how far they go, what the creative vision was. And that's what we should be doing as gamers. The YouTube shmoney, the amount of comments that you get, the amount of views that you get, the clout that you'll get from saying some rage bait comments. But like, let's actually be gamers. Let's bring back the originality of this niche, because now we have a lot of people cosplaying as gamers. And I come from a long line of gamers. My dad plays games. My uncle plays games. My older cousins plays games. My brothers and sisters, they all play games. We all have played games. For as long as I've known, I've had a console controller in my hand. So I'd hate to see that this space get flooded by people who play games just to make money, play games just to have clout, play games just to remain relevant, because there's always going to be a new game that comes out. And as long as you recognize my face, it is what it is. You feel me? I'm gonna always get some money printing in. I don't like that aspect of where we're going to, because it just reminds me of Call of Duty. And then personally, I love Poppy Playtime. It's one of my favorite franchises. And I've just started playing horror games, like indie horror games. I had never done it before last year. And now I've been doing it for a long time now. It's been a full year. I'm going on my second year, meaning like it's been 365 days and we're doing another 365. So if you want to join me on this journey and you want to see more Let's Plays and more just real gamer reactions and just, you know, chill with a youngin', check out God Made Dan. That's my main channel where I play all my games. And sometimes I'll drop a video over here whenever I do get the chance. But I do appreciate you for stopping by, and I will see you in the next video.